Oh, there's a warning.
Drunk robot recording! Alright.
Drunk robots.
Drunk robot, we're going to start by talking about 8 Batman Cup because, I don't know, that feels significant because it's ridiculous. So, welcome to Drunk Comics, Lauren.
I am so glad to be here.
Thank you. Thank you. So, welcome. Tell me about yourself.
Okay, I am a podcaster. I do the Marvel podcast, Legends of S.H.I.E.L.D., which is mostly about the Marvel Cinematic Universe and TV series. I also record audiobooks, and I do some voice acting, and that's all at my website, lwsalinas.com. And I am a huge fucking nerd. So
Yes.
I saw you were doing this, and I'm like, oh, hell yeah.
Hell yes. Hi, Virtual 5. Woo! All right. So, where are you from?
I am from Texas. I just moved to Austin. And
Woo!
yeah, I moved here, and then the plague started. So I have not gotten to enjoy much of Austin.
Yeah. This is the year for disappointment.
This is the year of disappointment. Sorry, I sing when I get drunk.
That's okay. That's a good thing. How did you get into comics and
Okay,
superheroes?
so when I was really little, everything my cousin Stevie did was the most amazing thing in the world. And he got me into Ninja Turtles and he got me into X-Men because the X-Men cartoon was running at that time. So I was like, oh, hell yes. And then when I was like 7 or 8, he gave me a bunch of comics for my birthday. And it was like Silver Surfer. And I remember very clearly there's an X-Men comic, and I've been trying to track down for years which one this is because my mom threw them all away. And all I remember is it had Gambit and Rogue and Moira McTaggart and Gambit because I didn't understand a goddamn word they were saying. And that thus started my hatred of phonetically written accents.
Has
But I
Scottish
really liked those
and
comics.
Gambit
And then I
and
didn't really read comics again up until high school when I was reading like the Star Wars comics. And then I found Grant Morrison's New X-Men. I got the first trade paperback of that and started reading it. And I was like, oh, this is so badass. And then I started reading the Ultimate comics. And then when I started working at the lab that I used to work at, one of my coworkers was also about my age and huge fucking comic nerd. So he's like, oh, you need to read it. And he just kept giving me, like, lending me books and giving me recommendations. And I was like, I have missed out on so much. And since then, I have not looked back much to my bank account's disappointment.
God damn it, comics and
Right? It's like drugs are
yeah.
less expensive.
Yeah,
But
introduce your kids
I.
to comics and they will never have money for drugs. Okay, so what comic are we talking about today?
All right, today we are talking about Batwoman Elegy by Greg Rucka and J.H. Williams. And I want to say who's on the art, on the colors, because the color's amazing. Dave Stewart on the colorist and Todd Klein on letters. And
Also,
this is one of, yeah, oh my God, I got super into the old guard after watching the Netflix thing. And it's like, yeah, I love, because it's like, what if Wonder Woman, but serious? So, I mean, not that Wonder
Greg
Woman isn't
Rucka
serious,
is my
but
favorite writer.
he's
Like one of my
so
favorites.
good.
Oh, God, he's so good.
Yes,
Okay.
I got on like, me and my spouse got on huge Wonder Woman kicks after the movie came out. So we're buying like, my spouse wanted
Greg
to read the
Rucka's
original
Wonder
run.
Woman.
Yes,
Holy
Greg Rucka's
fuck.
Wonder Woman's amazing. And anyway, love Greg
Have
Rucka's
you
stuff.
read Tell me the
his
story.
original stuff is great. Queen and Country is fantastic. Okay, so Batwoman Elegy. I hand this comic out to like everybody I know because if I could marry layouts, I would marry this. Like, it's just, oh, okay. So again, I like art. I wouldn't call myself an artist because I'm bad at drawing, or I'm not as good at drawing as I used to be.
But you can
But
appreciate it. That's okay.
like, yeah, it's like, holy shit. He was doing, like, J.H. Williams was doing such amazing stuff with the layouts in this. Like, there's a lot of, like, the bat motif and just the really kinetic flow. It's so good. And the art is just amazing. The color is just amazing. The story's so good. So the story. So we start off with Kane, who's Batman's gay cousin, and she is wonderful. And she starts off in the Batman costume, which is black and red, and everything's super monochrome, and super desaturated, except for her at first, because she has like the vivid red wig and the red gloves and red boots and the red symbol and the red lipstick. So I'm wearing actually Kane inspired makeup tonight.
Yes.
And yes, and
Yes.
so she's like fighting people. There's this whole, okay. So granted, I didn't read a lot of the Batman stuff that led to this.
That's
But
okay.
she got like stabbed by the head of the religion of crime, and there's like covens in Gotham, and they thought she was like their weird, I'm not going to say Messiah, because the whole thing was we need to kill her so that somebody else could be the Messiah, but also maybe the Messiah. I don't know. Like I said, I didn't read the stuff coming up to it, and the religion of crime, like, I have logistical problems with a religion of crime, but anyway, I am not the one who wrote this story. And so it's her talking to Batman like, oh, there's activity, stuff's coming up. The new head of the there's it's the white smoke. It's like the Pope. The new head of the religion of crime is coming today. And so Kate's like, I'm gonna be there for that. So anyway, we go to Kate in her like civilian life where she has this short like bob. She looks very like rockabilly. She's like super pale. Everyone else is like, okay, I am a normal person with skin color, and she's like, I am basically an ink drawing with red hair, and it looks really cool. But she's talking with her, I guess now ex, and breaking up with her because hey, she had to go run off to fight crime in the middle of the night.
Poor Katie.
And she's talking with her dad, and the relationship with her dad in the comics is fantastic, and that's one of the reasons that I didn't really get into the TV series. Because her dad, she's like a colonel, and she always calls him sir, he always calls her soldier. It's kind of a dysfunctional relationship, but they genuinely support each other. And there's supposed to be this like, I don't know, like ball that her stepmother is setting up because her stepmother is super into like fundraising and politics. And so anyway, she's like, okay, I'll go to this, but I'm going to do bat person stuff first. So she's on this super cool bike, and you have a picture of her on her super cool bike, but not one from this book. So she's like, okay, I'm going to go see who's in charge of this religion of crime now. And it is this really cool character design right here. Super, okay, one thing I love is that, yeah, while Batwoman looks like she's very stark, very, black and white and red, this character, Alice, is all white and pastels, and the outline of her is literally done in slightly darker tones of the colors. So she looks like ethereal, kind of glowing. And she calls herself Alice, and she only talks in quotes from the Lewis Carroll Alice books. And another thing that I had a problem with in the TV series is that when Alice was introduced, this was just a personal thing, but I felt like her delivery was off. And this is, I mean, the actress is great. She was actually, I think, Huntress in the Birds of Prey series from the early, 2000s, which I got really bored and watched once, I binged it all.
In the Birds of Prey.
Yeah. And so this Alice, instead of I don't know, I feel like she should And that's a little bit because of the way that her speech bubbles are written and stuff. I feel like she should be talking like she's doing a bad impression of an English accent and doing a, oh, so very, very Victorian sounding. But in the show, she's like, why is a raven like a riding desk? Fuck if I know. And so Batwoman goes up against her, and things don't go great. And she is like, oh, I'm gonna shoot her with tear gas and question her and put a stop to this whole religion of crime bullshit. But Alice is like, nope, and was hiding a razor blade in her mouth and is like that, and cuts her across the cheek. So she has like that really cool, like you see in movies and books and like comics and stuff, where it's like, oh, I was seriously hurt in my face, but it just makes me look cooler. But she's Batwoman, so she is really cool. And Alice gets away. So the razor blade was also poisoned. And so Kate is like freaking out in the woods, trying to get back to like, I don't know, a van? No, I'm sorry, it's a hallucination of a van. I'm looking at the book right now, which might be cheating, but I have a really bad memory. So she gets to the van and is like having these flashbacks of masked soldiers, and you see this little girl with the red hair, and she's like, no, and it's like a hallucination of her past. And her dad, Kate's dad, Jacob, is like, oh no, she should have been back by now, and tracks her down. And she gets there, and like he gets there to save her, but Alice is there also, and is like, okay, I'm gonna kill her. But these like, and I forgot all about this part, these fucking like werewolf people come out of the woods.
What?
Like one's a werewolf, one's an octopus, and one looks like a Nosferatu, but I think he's supposed to be a lizard. So they come and they're like, they save her, because it turns out that they were also adherents to the religion of crime. But when Kate got stabbed and lived, they're like, okay, their interpretation is wrong. She's not the twice named daughter of Kate or child of Kane or whatever the fuck that we're looking for. So now we're this like splinter religion. And also we're were people, because I don't know why. Like, it's not really explained in this book. It probably is previous. But they save her. And it turns out that they're like, okay, we're on the right side for now, because we also think that this religion of crime is shitty. So they save Kate. She wakes up and she goes to the ball. And while she's there, she upsets her stepmother by wearing a tuxedo, because Kate is a butch lesbian and she is super awesome and very like in your face. And her cousin Betty is also there, who shows up as Firebird in later comics. But here she's just like, oh, she's Kate's cousin Betty. So while she's at this ball, Kate meets another woman. Yes, Kate meets another woman in a tux. And it turns out this is Maggie Sawyer. And they start dancing together. Yes. And they start dancing and they're flirting and they're talking about their exes, and things are hitting off really well for them. But then Kate sees the human forms of the were people that she saw the night before. So she's like, I'm going to go talk to them. Shit is up. So that's when she gets her answer about like what's going on. And in the meantime, Alice has like killed Jacob Kane's like colleagues and stuff, because he's still, I guess, in charge of like a mercenary group. So she's killed him. She's wearing this super awesome outfit. It's like she was wearing this like super frilly kind of like lowly looking dress earlier, and now she's wearing like pants and this like skull thing on her abdomen, and she has a knife, and she's wearing this like robe. It looks kind of like a bridal veil. It's very cool. And so she calls Kate. Kate was trying to call like her dad, who stepped out because also shit was going on with him, and they kidnapped her dad. Oh my god. And the way this panel where they're talking is cut looks so good. Like, it's Kate at the top and Alice on the bottom. And again, I love the art in here so much. And they're talking, and Kate's like, okay, flirting with you was fun, Maggie, but I gotta go. I gotta step out and do work stuff. And so she goes, she puts on the Batman outfit, well, Batwoman outfit because she is Batwoman. And she gets one of the
Yeah.
werewolf dudes, whose name I forget, but he's the one who's like actually a werewolf instead of a were octopus or were lizard or any of the other weird shit we see later on. So like, okay, we're gonna go rescue him and we're gonna go kill Alice.
Mm.
But okay, so they're going and they're gonna rescue him, and there's this whole cool thing where they're like, "Oh shit! The religion of crime stole a plane, and they're gonna put this chemical. There's chemicals on the wings that if they drop it over Gotham, like it'll turn to cyanide in your blood, and everyone's gonna die. It's gonna suck." So Kate's like, "Gotta stop him."
Mm.
And Kate's fighting the like religion of crime acolytes. There's this okay, they're all bald, and there's this one who's like, I don't know, like Alice's number two person, I guess, because she's the one most often shown with her, and she's bald and she doesn't wear a shirt, but she has like a band right here, so she's not just like tits out, and she knows kung fu, so she's gonna fight Kate, but Kate like throws her out of plane. It's pretty cool.
Mm.
So Kate and Alice are fighting, and it's again the panels super kinetic. It's great, and Kate is like, okay, because Jacob had a realization before Kate. He's like, Batman rules in effect. Don't kill her. She's like, I'm always Batman rules. Come on. But Alice is falling out of the plane, and Kate's like, "Oh, hold on to me." And then the one thing, it's in the one like normal like panel, like comic text bubble instead of like because it's all Alice's are black text with this like frou frou. I'm sorry, it's black bubble with frou frou white text, and the one normal thing she says, and the one non um, God, I wanted to say Charles Dickens. What Lewis Carroll quote that she says is, "You have our father's eyes," and she lets go. So
Oh.
then we're getting flashbacks. It's like, oh, 20 years ago, and we see little baby Kate and another little baby Kate. Kate had a twin sister named Beth, and they are like their mom is also like in the military, and their dad's always away doing military stuff, and he gets a transfer to the Hague, and they're like, no, I don't want to go to the Hague, I was just making friends here at this school. And again, something I love, the art style changes. Here's how it is when it's like the flashback to young Kate and Beth, and then here's how it is when it's the flashback to Jacob at war. So it's done in a much more like military style comic look. So they're at the Hague, and they're mad because they're good. Oh, we're gonna miss our birthday, and well, I'm sorry. First, there's a little interlude about Kate like doing lab work, and she has like a sample of Alice's blood that from like the fight. So she puts that in like a test tube and takes her own blood, puts that in a test tube. So we're like, something's up. Oh my god. So then, back to the flashback, and it's like, oh, the twins are like, oh, it's our birthday and our dad's away doing, army business. The mom's like, it's okay, we'll go out for an expensive, dinner. We're gonna go get like waffles, like Belgian waffles.
Yeah.
But then a van is following them, and Kate's mom and her sister get kidnapped. Actually, I think Kate does too. Yeah, they all get kidnapped. And the next thing we see, we hear like a bunch of text. It's reading. We see a bunch of text things, and it's like their mom is like, "Stay away from my daughter," and you get the indication things don't go poorly, especially when Jacob shows up and rescues little baby Kate. And you see all the dead bodies, and you see presumably the dead body of her mom with a bag over her head. And so this dead little girl on the floor. Speaking of sad, but not that sad. And because
Yeah.
you see the red hair, you're like, oh no, it's Beth, her sister's dead.
No,
And then
I'm
it's
fine.
like, it's another flashback 7 years ago. And now the art style has changed a little bit again. And it's Kate at West Point, and she's wearing her uniform, and she got her West Point ring, and she's all happy, and she's talking. She goes off campus and goes to her girlfriend, and they're kissing and they're happy. But then she gets called in to talk with the colonel. And actually, this part's really cool because the guy who lets her know, hey, Colonel wants to see you, is Lieutenant Dan Choi, who is a real life person who was like, back when the repeal, don't ask, don't tell stuff was in the news, he was like the figurehead of that. He was a soldier who got expelled, who got kicked out for being gay. And actually, Rachel Maddow wrote the intro to the trade paperback and was talking about, oh, when I was interviewing Dan Choi, blah, blah, blah. So she goes, and the colonel is like, people say they saw you kissing another girl. I mean, you're a really promising troop, so we don't want to, like, have to, like, let you, like, we don't want to have to let you go, so just say that you weren't, and it's all good. And Kate's like, no, a Marine doesn't lie, cheat, or steal, and so I'm not gonna lie. So she goes home, and she's talking to her dad, and I got like really emotional the first time I read this. And she thinks he's going to be so disappointed in her because she, left. But instead, she's like, yeah, okay, I have to read this part out loud when she goes back to her dad. She's saying, fuck, let me find that part. Okay, there's a whole little thing there. Okay, she's talking to her dad, who just got engaged to her stepmom, who's being kind of bitchy about. She got like Kate's mom's engagement ring as an engagement ring. And it's like, oh, it's not the one I would have picked out, but Kate's like, it was good enough for my mom. So, things are tense between them from the beginning. So she goes to her dad, and she says, I've been separated from the army. He says, what? What happened? Colonel Reyes informed me I was under investigation for violating Article 125. I couldn't say what he needed to hear. Article 125, that's homosexual conduct. Yes, sir. Why couldn't you tell him what he needed to hear? I'd have been lying. And there's this panel where he's just like looking, and then he says, then you kept your honor and your integrity, and I'm proud of you, and your mother would have been too. And I got so emotional when I read that. So, but the thing is that like now Kate is at odds because she's like, all I wanted to do was, serve and save people and do some good. So instead, she goes to college, drops out of college, gets arrested for drunk driving by Renee Montoya, hits on her, they start dating. Yeah. But then there's like a little bit of a flash forward through their relationship, and things go really bad because Renee is always like, Kate's trying to get Renee to call out of work and just like stay in bed with her. And Renee is like, I have a job, and at least I'm not here wasting my stepmom's money and not doing anything. Yeah, it's a nasty fight. So they break up. And while Kate's like going and like trying to call Renee, somebody's gonna mug her, and she's like, I'm not a victim, and she's fighting them. But then Batman shows up. So she looks up and she sees the bat signal, and then something clicks in her, and she's like, that's what I can do. I can fucking be a vigilante. Yeah. And yes, it's great. So she's like,
Batwoman, Kate.
Yes. So there's like this whole thing. She meets up with Renee again because Kate's like basically being a honeypot in a shitty bar. And she's like, yeah, anybody starts acting up, I'm going to beat the shit out of him. And Renee is like, I didn't think you'd be here in this bar, blah, blah, blah. And they fight again because, bad breakups. So Kate, she's not wearing a Batman costume yet. She's wearing like Kevlar and, gas mask and stuff. And her dad ends up finding her when she comes home and is like, yeah, I knew about this stuff. I'm not stupid. And Kate's kind of been stealing military equipment from him. What? And then Kate's like, no. I think I'm not playing. I can do this. I think this is how I can help. And he's like, you know what? Okay, I believe in you, but I want to make sure you're prepared. So I'm going to send you to train with the toughest people I know. So for 2 years, she's gone, and she's training with special ops people, and she's like doing martial arts and gymnastics, and it's really tough. Like learning like actual like forensics and things, because hey, Batman is a detective and lots of things forget this. But when she comes back, you know, her stepmom's like kind of being shitty about it, like, oh, I wish I could take a 2-year vacation. Oh, but we all know that Kate was training. So Kate's dad gets her the first Batwoman costume that I guess we see her in when she comes back to like the comics. Because there was like a Kathy Kane or a Katie Kane back in like the 60s, but she was in love with Batman, and it's like, they're cousins. That's weird. Also, she's gay. Please don't. But
Yeah.
so we get again, you know, now that we have the story of how she became Batwoman, how close she and her dad are. Kate goes to a forensic scientist who's in contact with her and is like, I need you to test this blood, and gives her the test tubes. And the scientist is like, yeah, it turns out they're identical. It's like you said, twins. And she's like, I thought so. In the meantime, a religion of crime is being shitty and kills a lot of the werepeople. Anyway, so back to Kate. And it's like, oh no, this is going to drive a rift between her and her dad. And she tells her dad, like, her dad's like, I didn't want to tell you that the little girl we found wasn't your sister, and that we didn't know where she was, and that by the time that, like, I was like, okay, you know, Kate's processed it. She's gotten over it. Like, maybe I'll tell her, but it's like, why though? And Kate's like, I was never over it. You know, my sister's been out there all this time, and we could have been finding her. And so it's this huge, like, and then she's like, no, my sister's dead. I watched her fall. I killed her. And that's where the trade ends, except we know Alice isn't dead, which is also the title of the podcast, but not about this Alice. And like, I read the rest of, like, you know, the Hayden Blackman, J.H. Williams run on Batwoman, because again, I love this character, and I'm still mad that yeah, they had her propose to Maggie Sawyer, but they can't get married. Superheroes can't be happy. And it's like, fuck all the way off.
Fuck that
But,
shit.
yes, but that is the comic, and it makes me so happy, and like, it's so gorgeous. And J.H. Williams' art is amazing. And again, the layouts are so good. Like, if you wanted a masterclass in visual storytelling, read this comic. It's great.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
Dun, 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 dun.